Hello guys, welcome to another episode of One-on-One Interviews. As I promised after episode with Matt Jennings that I'm gonna host soon another professional basketball player. This time I have with me the guy who you probably know very well. For you who are from football or some other sport and enjoy watching one-on-one interviews, this is Marcelinho Huertas, one of the best point guards currently in Europe, and he has been in Europe and overseas in NBA for a long period. For me, honestly, if someone asks me who is the most professional player that I have worked with, Marce, no, you are the first name that pops in my mind. I have worked with some unbelievable guys so far. Just to name a few, is definitely Toko, that was your teammate and your roommate on the road. Jay Granger, one of them. I mean, there is a lot of guys really focused and passionate about what they do. But why I always have you in my mind is the fact that I met you for the first time when you came back from the NBA a couple of years ago. For me, you were super experienced player, and you approached to me in a really kind way. And what I like about you the most is your dedication to be better every day and to learn from whoever you can. Doesn't matter if they are younger than you or older than you, and this is something that I really appreciate. And for me, every second that I spent with this guy was unbelievable, because I learned from him a lot, and I really hope that throughout this short interview that we can do, you will learn also from him. So Marce, I would like to start this interview by asking you one simple question. I really admire your work ethic, and how did you develop this work ethic? Who was the person, or who were the people who influenced you the most, who built your character, let's say, in that way, and who kind of taught you how to work?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the super kind words you had, about me. I'm really, happy and honored. You said all these wonderful things about me, and this is just trying to be myself. I don't try to do anything to please anybody. I just try to be, an honest person and very transparent, in everything I do. And like you say, I always, try to have a close relationship with people I relate, and people that are a part of my day-to-day life, not only with basketball but also outside. I think this is really important. I think we should, as humans, be kind to one another, and be respectful, no matter what position you belong or you are. I think this is just something that I've learned with life, seeing a lot of like other professionals, and I think this fits where your question comes as well. So I never try to be a role model for anybody, or I never try to imitate somebody. I've always tried to learn the best way I could from other professionals, from other people. I think you can always watch and learn from people's behaviors, and learn from family, friends, anybody that you're around your life. Even in movies, I think in books, you can always find like how can I say, things to make you be a better person, to have not only ethics during your job, but like I think your moral personality comes from what comes inside from you, and you have to believe what you do. So that's I think one of the things I've always tried to embrace and try to be truth to myself. I never try to be somebody else, and that's what makes me be just me. And like you said, I don't try to please people. I just try to be myself, and if I do please people, it's because I'm just being truthful.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. You had a lot of European experience. Now you're back in Europe, but we all know that NBA is probably the highest step, and it is the highest step for a professional basketball player. What did you learn there, basketball-wise, strength and conditioning-wise? What was the experience that you value the most?
Well, as far as basketball, I mean, basketball in NBA and here in Europe are very different. Everyone know that. And as far as the basketball part, I think what I've learned the most, it was like work on my individual game. All the skills, all the try to be able to create your own baskets and try to get better technically within the game, which here in Europe you dedicate more time doing like as a team, as strategy, how to work and do all the scouting. We don't have much time to work on our game because we always like preparing for games and I mean it's different. It's a different mentality, two different ways of approaching the game. And as far as strength and conditioning, I think it's very similar. The experience I had, at least when I was in LA with Timmy DiFrancesco, which really well. He works in a very similar way you do, and it was very fun to work out. Every morning I had to go there, and we had like fun workouts. It was never supposed to be like really pushy. I think workouts like you don't have to do like a lot of weights to play basketball. You have to do specific work and know what you do. This is the most important thing. You do the stuff, the small things that you have to do like on an everyday basis. And like the work he used to do that like very specific and very dedicated to the basketball like field. It was very similar to what you do here. So and before I went there, I think everywhere else I was based on just like lifting weights and getting like strength, but it wasn't like it is right now, like more functional, more towards like the basketball part. And I think it's it's becoming more of a tradition now, or even now in Tenerife we work on the same kind of on the same way. So I think it's changing. It's going through like a process of changing this last maybe 5, maybe 10 years. I don't even know when it all started. Maybe you can talk better about it. But I think it's much more fun, and I think it's better for our bodies as well. I think it gets us prepared for what the basketball games ask for.
Excellent. Let's stay just for one more question in the NBA. I want to ask you because I haven't asked you before that question. Experience on the court and of course in the locker room with Kobe, one of the best guys who played the game, and for me he was my favorite player of all time, because I'm a little bit younger than you, and probably you were in the generation who grew up watching Bulls, but I'm the guy who grew up watching Lakers, and for me it was always like Kobe, 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 and I respect him a lot. I watched like tons of documentaries or interviews just to like learn from what he's saying, and you had the experience with him real on the court and in the locker room. So what did you learn from him?
Well, what I've lived around him, I think he was a little bit like different from what I heard in throughout his whole career, because in my opinion, the last season he played, he was I think his mindset was a little different than it used to be. I think his approach was much more relaxed, and he wasn't the same guy with the same hunger he had in the previous 19 years. I think with all the pain he was feeling, his shoulders, and coming back from Achilles injury, and he wasn't just like physically where he wanted to be and where he he felt comfortable. So he knew that he could take the team to to a fight for the playoffs, and like maybe do things that he was used to in the previous years. So I think he was much more relaxed, and he was much more like trying to mentor the young guys, and he wasn't as pushy as people said he was. And like everyone knows, that his mentality was really to push people like to the limit, like Jordan did, like everyone saw in the Last Dance documentary. And but like from what I heard, from guys that have been around him for like 15-20 years in that franchise, the guy's mentality was just something incredible, outstanding. And nobody that ever went through that building was not even close to what he was. The way he dedicated himself for basketball, the way he approached the game, the way he prepared himself, the way he pushed himself, like in the gym, on the court, first one in, last one out, always coming late nights after losing the game to work on his game and footwork and free throws and shoot with the left hand when his right hand was broken. I mean, it just tells about the kind of guy he was. And unfortunately I couldn't get to see this side because, like I said, he was in a different, I guess, different vibe in that last season. But in the locker room, for me, it was it was a great experience because Kobe, he's such a different guy, such a special guy, because like he's American, but he was raised here in Europe. His mentality is so much more open, and he thinks more like a European guy than like most American players. And very open-minded. Very, very close to me in a surprising way. When I got to the locker rooms, and I got to sit next to him in the practice facility, and sometimes we would just like sit and talk. He would reach out to me and just start speaking Spanish or Italian. Just say, "Come here, amigo, let's talk a little bit," blah blah blah. And for me, it was just like, okay, this guy, what is he saying? Like, why does he want to talk to me? There's like a million other guys here. But just tells me a little bit about like Kobe as a person off the court. Like he always got along well with foreign players. I think he always wanted to learn from different cultures and talk different languages as well. And he was in Brazil for a lot of times. He loved Brazil, so it was a matter of discussion a few times as well. So for me, it was just a big pleasure. I wish I could have seen the other side of Kobe, the mad Kobe, the pushy Kobe, because I think that's like I was saying, I was gonna see his true side, what brought him there, to be one of the best players ever in history.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now you just mentioned Brazil, and I wanted to ask you. You went through Brazil when you were younger. Of course, every summer you dedicate to the national team, where very often you have Brazilian staff. Now you have Croatian coach, completely weird. It surprised me quite a lot. But still you have Brazilian strength and conditioning coach. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, is there any difference during the last 5 to 10 years between strength and conditioning, in strength and conditioning between those countries, let's say Brazil, a little bit American environment of NBA, and then the European side? Mainly you playing in Spain, so we can discuss a little bit this difference between strength and conditioning approach.
Well, I think more than the difference of styles of places, I think it adjusts more like according to what kind of competition you have, coming, because it's different to come here for a preseason, which you have a long way to prepare, and you have a long season, and you can do like different stuff, than to go to a national team where you have you have to prepare for like a different kind of tournament. You have maybe like 3 weeks, and you start like you have like some scrimmage games, and then all of a sudden you play every day, like this competition we're just about to play. And like sometimes the preparation has to be different because just the competition you're going to face, you have to have your body prepared for like a different circumstance. So I think that's what like makes it more different. I think nowadays, like I was saying, I think everything is much more unique. Like I think everyone has the same information. I think the trend about strength and conditioning, I think it's similar everywhere. I think everyone is like changing and doing a different approach to it and making everything much more like functional, like I said. But I think as far as how much you train, how much weight you put on, I think it depends on what kind of games or amount of practicing you're gonna have in the upcoming like weeks or months. So it's very different, like national team, than a regular season.
Mm-hmm. How did you, or how you still deal with these summers with the national team? Because you mainly played in Spain, and then after Spain is probably one of the countries that has the longest national competition. It always ends mid-June, late June, and then basically you have no time, maybe a week, to travel back home to Brazil or wherever you're gonna meet your national team to start preparation for some kind of competition. Is it FIBA America Cup, or is it Olympic Games, World Championship? How, like, for the last 10-15 years you have been a member of the national team, senior national team. How do you prepare yourself mentally and physically for that?
Well, in the beginning I think it was easier. You're young and you don't even think about being tired or anything, and you're just hungry. It's the first few years you're in the national team, so you want to prove yourself. But after that, I think it's much more of a mental matter. If you prepare yourself well for it, and if you feel like pride on wearing that jersey, and they know how much it means to you, I think it becomes much more easier. Of course, the body needs to rest, and you need time to recover, especially after a long season. And luckily, on one side, I was always able to finish late, like reaching final phases here in Spain, and cutting my vacation short. But on the other hand, it's something that I've always enjoyed, and it's something that brings you pleasure. I think you can always deal with it. Of course, like in national team, when you get there, maybe you don't have to do as much as other people in the first week, maybe, especially because you're coming from a long season and you try to ease into it. But I mean, I understand some people who want to take summers off because it's really hard, at times, and especially guys that play in the NBA, even though seasons are shorter. The amount of games in a short period of time it's very heavy and it's different. And also because NBA teams have certain rules and they're really careful about about getting their players injured. Players are worth a lot of money in the NBA, and it's different than here in Europe. But like I said, I think it's much more of a mental issue than like a body issue.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I wanted to ask you, you just mentioned that it's different. It was different for you to be on the national team when you were younger. Now when your experience it's a little bit different. And I would like to hear your opinion to help a little bit unexperienced guys or younger coaches. Let's say strength conditioning and recovery are three main pillars of physical readiness or physical performance of one player. And I would like to hear how do you see strength work, conditioning off and on the court, and then recovery when you're a younger guy, when you are in your like middle part of your career, maybe age 25 to 30, and then a little bit like veteran over 30, like experienced guys. How does this like ratio between these three pillars change, or does it change? Do you see any difference between those three things?
I mean, when you're young, of course, your body is ready for much more. You don't have to worry so much about like the recovery, because your body is able to do that, much faster and everything, which is natural. But I mean, my advice is if you can do this, the same thing you do when you're young, when you're older player like I am towards the end of my career, maybe your career can last longer. Maybe it won't make a difference in the beginning, but then when you get over 30, if you didn't spend that time doing the strength and conditioning and all the recovery part, maybe instead of playing until 38, you're going to play until 33, 34, because maybe it's invisible back there because you don't feel it, but on the long run you might feel it. So my recommendation for young players is, try to do as best as you can. Of course, maybe some days you won't feel like doing maybe as hard the strength and conditioning, and also maybe the recovery because you're lazy or you have something else to do. You have to go dinner with friends. I understand, which is normal, and I'm never gonna say no, don't do this, don't ever do that. But try not to skip many times. Make it an exception, not as a rule. So I think this is my advice. I think and right now we have so much more information. Back when I was 20, maybe it was a little different. But now, knowing everything that I know and everyone can know now, use this as a weapon for you. As an advantage. So when you're older, you won't regret it.
Yeah, definitely. I know that you are one of the players who will always listen to a good podcast when it comes to physical preparedness, especially where they explain the impact of good sleep, good nutrition, good diet, good supplementation, and so on. And as you say now, these are very, very valuable sources of information for players, and players smart players tend to educate themselves even more. So I think it's a huge thing that players need to consider also, to educate themselves and take advantage of all the information that we have. And then maybe with the help of strength and conditioning coach, they can be a little bit more selective because there is tons of information, and it's as a player without educational background from a university, it's not super easy to pick valuable information. But if you have a guy who can always send you something good, like guy from the national team, or guy from the current club, or the guy who you trust a lot, I think it's pretty cool. Definitely. I wanted to ask you one thing. You went through your career through at least 10 or 15 different strength coaches. It's a huge experience. I would like to know what are the traits of good strength and conditioning coach, both personal traits and also regarding their work.
Like what do you mean?
Like qualities that personal qualities that one strength and conditioning coach should have. Like does he need to yell at the guys, or he has to be like those kind of things?
No, I completely disagree with that. I think it has to be like a natural. First of all, it's your job. So, if you don't want to do it, of course, you're going to have a strength and conditioning coach that is going to push you, because, that's your job and you should be doing. You shouldn't have somebody come to you yelling at you that so you can do it. So I think it's part of our job and we should do it, like it or not. It's something that, all players should be aware and know. But, I think, like the trust, that you give like your strengthening coach as a player, and receiving the information, we have to be as receptive and try to understand his side as well, and how important that is. And also I think like seeing how much knowledge that every conditioning coach has, gives you more confidence to work. So you see if like when you do certain exercises, if you have like some kind of like back pain or knee pain, and you start working like specific stuff for that. I'm just putting an example. All of a sudden you see maybe in like a week or two, you start feeling that pain is gone. So that means you're doing like some stuff that it's really valuable for you. And I say, okay, maybe this guy really knows something. Not that you shouldn't trust the coach, because if he's there, it's for a reason. There shouldn't be a reason you wouldn't trust like any coach. But of course, you want to see results as well. Like coaches want to see results from us, and the club want to see results from us. You want to see results as well from professionals that are trying to help you, because in the end, it's your body on the line as well. So I think, this is the most important thing. You have like an open relationship and discuss ideas, because sometimes, you telling me to do certain exercise, like you say, okay, let's do a Bulgarian squat, and I say, Luka, I don't like doing Bulgarian squat because it hurts my knee, when it gets to a certain angle, so let's do something else. And you always recommend, okay, maybe you can do in a different machine, or you can do, I don't know, split squats, stuff like this. Say, okay, perfect, we work on the same exercise. If I need to work, something that related to, a different muscle that you work on Bulgarian squat that you don't work on split squat, maybe I do something extra and you tell me, so I think it's just a matter of, having the open communication, and I mean, there's no secret to it.
Excellent, I like it. Perfect. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your diet. You're the guy who also experimented a lot, which I recommend to every player. As I mentioned in the previous interview with Roberto, we just said, like, if you explore with diet, it should be during the off season first, or like gradually, step by step, not to make major changes if you're doing it during the season, just not to put yourself in a risk to get injured or whatever. But I know that you dedicated a lot of time to change a little bit your diet, to adjust it, to experiment, to see what really fits you. And can you explain us a little bit now how your diet looks like, and why did you choose to change a little bit or to adjust it?
Well, I started to adjust because, of like many reasons. First of all, I thought it was something that was, gonna make myself, healthier. And and then for animal cruelty, environment, diseases, everything that I've read a lot about it, and I started understanding different things. And it was really hard for me in the beginning because I've always been like big, meat eater, cheese, like all kinds of dairy, and eggs, everything. And now for me it's very different. It's been so long that I cut meat. Every now and then I still eat fish, sometimes eggs. It really mostly on road trips when I don't have like good options of like vegetable proteins. Sometimes it's hard to find certain grains or veggies, and I end up eating like stuff that I don't really do on a daily basis. But like milk, cheeses, all this is very inflammatory. And so for me, and also for my breathing, I've always had like breathing problems, and the casein. That's all cheeses and milks. When I cut the milk and all dairy products, the biggest change I felt was at night. I used to have a lot of trouble sleeping, snoring and everything, and it just made my nights
probably
completely.
It was not only a problem for you, but for Gracia.
Exactly, it was a big problem for my wife, but it really helped me as well, because I could breathe better, and I had better nights of sleep. Didn't wake up in the middle of the night like pretending thinking I was gonna die or something. But and also I start feeling much less pain in my joints and the tendons and everything, which I've always had like problem with like knee problems and stuff like this. Nothing major, but as a player, you always feel pain. You play at a high level sport, and there's no way you shouldn't be sore or painful. But ever since I cut like all these products, my body's been feeling fine. Especially after games, what I used to suffer, and now even playing like more than almost 30 minutes a game twice a week, I feel great. And it's like, okay, so how does that work? I'm 37 and I feel better than I was like when I was 28, 30. So what kind of, so I started like seeing, my body changed as well. People were so worried, oh, so how you get the protein? There's a big myth about, like if you don't eat meat, you have no protein, which is a lie. You can, just search on the internet and you can read a million things, and you can find a lot of protein in different like vegetables, grains, etc. So that was a big change for me. In the beginning I suffered, like I said, but you start to get used to, and it's just a matter of you, like I said, adjust little by little, see what works for you. I mean, it worked for me. I'm not gonna say it's a rule that will work for everybody, but I really recommend you reduce like this kind of elements of your diet, because I think in the long run it could make a difference for you. And also gluten, like I try to eat as less gluten as I can, because it helps also your digestion, all your interior parts as well, make them work better. So I try to eat, every time I eat pasta with no gluten. Of course, if they don't have it, sometimes you gotta go, but at home, especially when I'm home, I try to stay away from that as well.
Excellent. We covered a little bit your diet. We don't have to talk too much about sleep, because you're one of the guys who really takes care of how you sleep. Let's just wrap this up with recovery methods that you consider the most effective together with sleep and diet.
Well, you mentioned, after you finish the game, it's important you eat something healthy. First of all, I think it's really important. Like the first thing you put in your body is, your body's gonna suck that in, and if it's something inflammatory, you're just you're just throwing yourself off a cliff. So I think it's really important to see what you eat. Of course, get a good night of sleep. Try. Sometimes I know it's hard, because when you're on the road, sometimes you have to wake up really early, and it's hard to sleep at night because you adrenaline and all that. There's some things that can help you sleep, like melatonin that a lot of people take, and I take, especially when I'm on the road. But ice is really important. Ice bath right after. If you can do like Normatec, all the compression boots, or like a good massage if you have your physiotherapist available as well. There's not many secrets. I think we can find like all options. Hydration as well. Keep yourself hydrated. Try to stretch a little bit. I don't think there's many more secrets. Of course, you can find like a million things that like LeBron has, but I don't think like everyone has the budget that he has for his recovery. But everyone can find like time, and sometimes it doesn't require money to have a proper rehab.
I agree. I think we have to stick to things that we believe in and just be consistent, and then we can try to build success regarding that. Before the last part, with a little bit shorter questions, I would like to hear a little bit how your ideal recovery day or day off without training activities looks like. Just on a day off, when you don't have to go back to gym, when you don't want to do extra work, what is the way how you try to enjoy the day? You have a big family now, and I think it's important for coaches to hear, because they should appreciate a lot days off, especially with the guys who have families, who play double competition. So I think it's important for them to hear from your player's perspective what you like to do on a day off.
Well, try to relax as much as you can, take care of your body, clear your mind mostly. I think it's really important. Maybe you can do like a little yoga session with like a little stretching, something really light, just to get your body going and your mind set to that day that's coming. Try to enjoy people you love, people around you. If you're by yourself, try to like call your family, enjoy, go for a nice good meal. If it's sunny, stay in the sun for a little bit. It's always nice to have a little vitamin D and see the sun. It makes people happy as well. Like I say, there's not a lot of secrets, regarding this. Try not to, do nothing crazy on your day off. So whenever you have to go back to practice, you're gonna be tired. So I think it's the resting part. It's part of our job. Now people say the most important part of practice is the way you recover. So I think this makes part of it. You have to know that sometimes resting is a part of your job. So try to do that as best as you can.
Excellent. Last part of the interview, maybe 5 minutes. First, I would like to ask you a little bit about your business, about your training camp that you organize every summer. I think it's a really good camp that is located in Brazil, right? In Brazil, yeah. You always organize it. So I would like to hear a little bit about it. Not the business part, of course, and I know that you're not doing it for money, But I call it a business because I consider that you devote your time, your passion, and in the end your finances to support those kind of things. It depends on how you organize it. If you have something in return, or basically it's something that you give to society, I'm not going to ask about that part. For me, it's more about the content and quality of the camp. So can you explain us a little bit more about it?
Well, it's the first 2 years of camp, we try to bring kids from like 12 to 17 years old, more or less. And I mean, it's of course based on basketball. Of course, kids want to come and they want to be, around like professional players, listen from, our experience and learn a lot of, things on the court, which is, where we spend most of our time. And but also I think we're trying to send a different message. We bring these people in not only for basketball, but also to try to help them, with not advice, but as far as bringing different people to share experiences of life, and help them to open their minds for if like basketball careers don't come for them, because it's really hard. There's a lot of kids that come, and to become a professional athlete, it's not as easy as it seems, even though, I wish all the kids that come there could one day be a professional player. So, we always bring a professional that talks about like nutrition. We always bring a professional that talks about strength and conditioning coach. We always bring a very good athlete from a different sport to talk about, what brought them there, and about their experience, so the kids can interact and ask questions, because it's not only about basketball. Like I said, it's about life. It's about being successful out of the basketball court. We bring also psychologists, so we do like a lot of different stuff. Of course, we do we try to do like a little like draft where the kids do the little how do you call them? Where they jump, they
combine.
run, like a combine. So there's like kids that they were like year after year, so they see how much they improve from one year to another, which is fun for them as well. So we try to do a little bit of everything. I've brought like a swimmer that won like Olympic medals and won like 23 Pan American gold medals for Brazil. Leandrinho Barbosa, Magic Paula, which is like one of the best basketball players in Brazil history, and Hall of Famer in USA. So we try to bring like people that are like could be inspiration for them as well. So like I said, we try to cover a little bit all areas of life with those kids, and try to teach them to follow a right path.
Excellent. I really like it, because I think for young kids, the mental development is as valuable as the professional basketball development, because to grow into professional athlete, it doesn't take only hard work, but good working ethic, good positive mentality, and support of both family and professionals they work with. So I think you're doing a great job. Quick questions for the end. Your favorite food?
Italian food.
Italian.
Yeah, pasta. Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, I've always been a sushi fan. I mean, nowadays I eat very, very few times, but but Italian has been, ever since have Italian tradition family. So yeah, Italian food.
Mm-hmm. What about drink?
Well, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, we can talk about it. So, of course, I like a good gin and tonic, beer. Wine. We drink wine at home almost 3 times a week with my wife, like a glass at dinner, which is good. And then I guess non-alcoholic water. I'll stick with water. I don't drink sodas and stuff like sugary. I like sparkling water. Yeah.
Excellent. Beside you, who is the best Brazilian basketball player of all time?
I think Oscar Schmidt was, the most famous of all time. Amazing scorer. Everything he's done with the national team and without as well. But I mean, I think we had great players in our generation that made brilliant careers in Europe and also in the NBA. And I think, you know, like the guys that I admire the most in that I was lucky to play with, and I consider the best players. Could be probably Splitter, Varejão, Barbosa, Nene. I don't know if I'm forgetting, maybe Marcelinho Machado, which I have a lot of affection as well for him.
Excellent. I can ask you about basketball players in Brazil, but we cannot skip to ask you who is the best Brazilian football player.
Ronaldo or Ronaldinho. I don't know. Romario. It's hard. Brazil. It's really hard to say, man. It's tough, man. I stay with Ronaldo. I think he was unstoppable at one point. That guy is incredible, Ronaldo.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not like a huge expert in football, but in Croatia you have to follow a little bit, and I know, like for me, when you talk about Brazil, Ronaldo is like the best one. Ronaldinho was amazing with the ball, like how he handled the ball. Yeah. It was brilliant, and for me, it's the style of Brazilian football is amazing because it's really about the skill and how you treat the ball and how you run with it. Because basketball is all about skills. So when you have a national team that competes in that way, which is much closer to how you play basketball, it's much more exciting to watch. So for me, it was always like Brazilian games. It was another level. You know, it's not like some countries in Europe when they play horrible football, just with shitload of fouls and it's completely different.
Well, that era when they played together, it was so fun to watch. You know, nowadays it's a little different, but yeah, when you know like Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, and they all play Rivaldo together, it was something special.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, who is your favorite teammate of all time?
Thiago Splitter. Yeah, I mean we're very, very close, and we got along so well ever since, you know, we met. And I mean, I have so many good friends in basketball, and I'm so blessed to have, you know, made so many good friendships along my long career. But I mean, if I had to choose, you know, pick out one name, I think it would be him. I mean, I consider him a brother. Yeah.
Excellent. Last question: who is your favorite basketball coach that coached you?
Tough, man. That's a question that a lot of people ask me, and it really puts me on the line here because
do you have a top three?
I've been blessed to play for so many coaches ever since I got here in Europe. And you know, my first coach here was Aito Garcia, which, you know, is a legend everywhere, and he's such a great like teacher, especially for young players. And I was really lucky to have him. You know, in my first 3 years, I learned a lot from him. You know, it was really important to help me on my formation as a player. Then, you know, I had the chance to play for Chus Vidoreta twice, which is a guy that I get along tremendously well, and he's such an incredible coach. Xavi Pascual, Duško Ivanović, which, you know, I think he was a big change for me when I came to play for him. I think I adjusted my game to in a different perspective, and I think is when I started being like really respected in Europe, and you know, my game just completely changed. You know, I became who I am like right now. I think today when I played for him, because he made me more of a like true point guard than a scorer that I was in the beginning. You know, when I played for Badalona and also for Bilbao, and I think it was a turning point for my career there. And then, like I mentioned, Xavi Pascual, Pedro Martinez. It's so hard to choose, man. All those guys know so much about basketball, and they have like different perspectives as well. So you can learn like different things from all of them. They're all like very different, not only in but also off the court. So it's hard to choose, man. It put me here on the spotlight, and maybe that's the question I can't respond.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you, and I like how you approach the answer, just saying that every coach influenced you, because it depends. It has to be like a two-way street. Coach can demand, but you have to be receptive. And if coach has a value, and all of those names that you mentioned, those coaches are incredible, and they coach in a different way. Some of them completely different way. But if you're able to adjust, that's the way how you can grow, I believe. Marce, thanks a lot, man. It was brilliant, guys. Wow, like for me, it was unbelievable to sit with Marce. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, if you like the episode, share it. If you want to subscribe to the channel, do it to get the latest updates about interviews and maybe some other content pretty soon in the future. I will see you soon. Bye bye. Perfect.
Awesome.